What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pat's Interference. The first time we've ever done this podcast in a new era of Alabama football.
Wow.
What a 72 hours it's been.
Yep.
Nick Saban, not burying the lead. Nick Saban retired.
Yep.
Caught us all really off guard on Wednesday. I don't think either of us saw that coming. I don't
No.
think very many people in the entire college football world saw that
I
coming.
think we may have discussed it after Steele retired.
Yeah.
It was brief and I believe in jest a good bit.
Yeah, and I think I shut it down pretty quickly because of what Nick Saban had acted and sounded like leading up to Wednesday. But
Luckily, he's never done anything like that before.
Luckily. So we got a jam-packed podcast today. If this is the first time you've ever joined us, I'm Patrick Brickman. His name is Patrick Norwood, and
Howdy,
this
that's
is
me.
a college football podcast from two Bama grads. We've been doing this since, I want to say, 2015 was our first full season.
Yep, August 2015 was our first episode.
So preseason that year was the first time we started doing this podcast. We're going into year 10 here pretty soon. We're almost a decade long, and now, for the first time, we have to make sense of what Alabama looks like without Nick Saban. This is something we've taken for granted for years.
Yep.
But I'm excited about continuing the podcast into this space. As an Alabama football fan,
Yeah.
I'm still in mourning. I'm excited about DeBoer, and we're going to get into that. We will grab DeBoer by the tusks and get into that a little bit later. I planned that in the shower today.
Wow, that was pretty good.
Thanks. Yeah, we're going to have to make sense of this new world. I've talked for a long time. You start us off with just, I want to go first to what was your, we haven't even spoken about this yet as friends, because you called me immediately as I saw
Yeah.
the tweet.
Yeah.
But what was your initial reaction to the news?
Bittersweet. I think I was more, and I still am, I think, more reflective than reactive to this news right now. Thinking about where Alabama football was, where we were as people.
Right.
And thinking about, everything that's happened in my life that Alabama football under Nick Saban has been a part of. Not just like, that sounds great. I'm not relating Alabama football to like my
Sure,
marriage or
absolutely.
anything.
Absolutely.
But you go back and you look at all the people that I've met who probably wouldn't have come to Alabama if it weren't for football.
Yeah.
The way that Saban sort of changed the town itself, right? The amount of money and time and energy he poured in, things like that. And we'll get into that discussion a little bit later. But my first thought was just sort of reflecting over what my life has been like and what the program has been like from, 2007 to right now. And it was, obviously it's bittersweet, like I said. I'm happy that he's retiring, and if it's true what he's saying, they're both in great health. That's awesome, and I hope they get a lot of years of retirement bliss and traveling and all that jazz. But yeah, I think we were definitely both surprised. My second thing was to immediately call my dad, let him know, and then to talk to you.
Not miking up right. Will you tell us? Can you not hear us? Are we on silent? Are we?
And
I'm
then
getting levels. I'm getting levels in OBS, but I don't know if we're maybe the mic isn't syncing up. Thank you, Bold Bruce.
Patrick is crazy is what the second part says.
Yeah.
So I don't know which Patrick you're referring to.
Oh, it bleeped that out on the chat on the
Yeah, it
iPad
did.
that we were looking at.
It
But
did. It considered it slander.
not muting up Patrick Wright is crazy. I mean, I mute myself up. Am I like rubbing? I might be rubbing against this. We're gonna cut when we post this as a podcast. We're just gonna cut this whole part
Yeah,
out.
this part's gonna be cut out
Because it's
for
kind of
sure.
interrupted the screen. But thank you for being a bro and telling us. Okay. So I was in the middle when you called me, and not that this matters in the story, but I didn't answer your call because I was doing dishes and my hands were filthy. But I just seen the words Nick Saban pop up on my screen or my watch or something, and then you
I
called, and I was like,
yeah.
I didn't see what it said, but when you called, I went, oh crap, he's retiring. And I had to dry my hands off, pull out the phone, see it, absorb it, and then go, how am I going to be strong for my friend? And I called you back because I was like, I don't know how he's going to be doing.
I was fine.
I know, you were
I was
fine.
okay. I was okay.
No, I like that he got to leave on his own terms. It's rare that you see somebody with the stature of a Nick Saban
Yeah.
leave at the top of their game when they decide it's right. Right? You think back to...
He went out on his terms.
I mean, who's the last legend? Was Bobby the last legend? Bobby Bowden the last one to really... legend, of that stature. And Nick Saban's a higher stature than Bobby Bowden as far as, career success. But, he didn't leave on his own terms. I'm not even going to mention Joe Pa, but guys like... Osborne at Nebraska. I don't really remember how he left, but he might be the same. I'd have to go look at that. But Nick Saban getting the leave, he was overtime away from going to a national title. They
Yep.
were going to come in the top 2 or 3 teams AP next year.
Yep.
And he decides to hang it up. And so I'm happy that he got to leave on his own volition. I think every Alabama fan was afraid of what the dynasty would look like had Nick Saban stayed past his usefulness.
Yeah.
Right? And he had every right. If he wanted to stay and wanted to stay past what we think his usefulness should be, he had that right. He was never going to get fired.
Yeah.
We just saw Bill O'Brien go, not Bill O'Brien, Bill Belichick win 2 games. And it was still just sort of a mutual party. They didn't fire him.
Yeah.
So he earned that right. I'm excited about that. But yeah, I mean, I was shocked. I wasn't ready for it. There's been waves of just sort of nostalgia,
Yeah.
happiness, depression. It's a lot of feelings. It's weird when college football really gets you like that. I mean, we love the sport and we get excited about it and we get over the top and we get obnoxious and we let it affect us too much sometimes. But this is one of those situations where I go, justified no matter who you're talking to.
Yeah, I think it also means a lot to the people in Tuscaloosa, not just Bama fans. People who have lived in Tuscaloosa their whole lives I've talked to. People that have lived in the state of Alabama their whole lives that I've talked to. This means more to them than I think people realize. They don't have pro teams, guys. Like that's one thing that people are like, I don't understand why Alabama fans are. This is it, dude. It is this. Sometimes basketball season, and you'll find the occasional Alabama baseball fan. And then other than that, unless like softball's in the College World Series or gymnastics is in the national title, this is it. And for a lot of those people...
Bull Bruce, imagine Steph Curry retiring on the cusp of going to the NBA Finals. Like the team just made it back, they're there, and then he decides he's done. I mean, it's when Kobe retired. For me, it's actually bigger than when Duncan retired because his play had declined. He was not good in that last playoffs that he played, especially the series that they lost to the Thunder that year. And so I kind of knew it was coming. This one, I'd never experienced something. I don't think college football has experienced something quite like this. This is very unprecedented in this sport.
I think the only thing that comes close is Bobby Cox and Chipper Jones retiring. Those 2 retirings felt in the same vicinity, but not anywhere near as huge.
Yes.
Right?
It is in the same vicinity, but at the same time, you believe that Alabama very well could have won a national championship next year. You probably didn't think Chipper was going to hit 40 home runs. Right? So it was still like, we knew it was time, but we didn't know when the time was coming, and then the time came quicker than we wanted it to.
Yeah.
We've been mentally sort of knowing it was coming, but we haven't been mentally at peace with it because we want to keep winning. So I guess now what we do is we do what we always do on this podcast. We're going to start up a game of NCAA.
Of course.
And we're just going to talk Nick Saban.
Yeah.
We're just going to reminisce, talk about what it means. We're just going to go where the conversation and the comments and everything take us. We're probably going to play at least a game doing that, and then we have to go and we have to talk Kalen DeBoer, and we have to talk future. But this could be a long pod. It could be.
And the national championship was Monday.
And we're going to talk about the national championship on Monday. We haven't potted since then by design, and we were going to, and then Nick Saban retires, and we kind of pushed everything.
So that's one thing that I want to say is I appreciate everybody the other night. I did get texts from a few people that said thank you when we said, hey, we're not going tonight.
Yeah.
Because there was just too much speculation. There was too much, this and that, and this guy took this fight, and this guy took this fight, and it was just, no, we're not doing that.
I haven't spent that many hours refreshing, at least since
Tua got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, at least since I was a TV reporter. But
the day that we were trying to figure out whether or not Tua was going to play against Tennessee, or Bryce was going to play against Tennessee.
Yeah.
That was probably the last time I did it. But anyway, so we wanted to make sure we had all of the bases covered. We knew it was going to happen with Alabama. Stanford's got great uniforms. Sorry if you're listening on pod. That's who we're playing in NCAA right now. And if this is your first time listening, we're the OC at Alabama. OC's name is Quincy Radar because
it's what name randomizer gave me.
It's a cool name. Yep. We just beat the.
That's how Childish Gambino once upon a time picked his rap name.
Yep, and we're very much like Childish Gambino in a lot of ways.
Absolutely true. Simba.
But anyway, so I think the way that I kind of want to steer this conversation, if you're all right with it, and comments, please,
Yeah, help us out. We want this to
in.
be as much of a conversation as we've ever had on here.
This is going to be a community more than it ever has.
Because we will forget things. I'll forget big moments. I'll forget stuff. And if people in the comments remember, then that's even better.
I want to sort of take this from the time that can we put in our real running back, please?
Sure.
This kid's terrible.
He is not.
I think I'll take it from when Saban got hired.
Yeah.
And it was such a huge deal because I remember how excited my brother was, how excited my dad was. I was at that point, 8th grader, freshman in high school. I knew the name, right?
Right.
I knew that he was a good coach. And then I watched, obviously, all the Sports Center fallout when he announced he was actually going to Alabama and the Dolphins fans and all that jazz. And I get it. But that first press conference he had, where he said, I want to create a culture where teams say, I hate playing those dudes.
Which, by the way, I won't want to miss DeBoer's intro, which is in an hour and 15 minutes.
No, we're going to.
He's at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central, and I'll be at least wanting to try to tune into that. But anyway, continue. Yeah, that first. So, I remember it, and I wasn't a Bama guy yet.
And then just to sort of sail past that first year, which is hard to do because it was such a massive year. Alabama went, I think, 7-6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 7-6 his first year.
And
I have no idea what play it is called.
But what we knew was going to happen was once he got some recruiting classes in, he was going to be great, right? And the game that sealed that for me was 2007 against Arkansas. Darren McFadden comes in as a Heisman hopeful. Alabama wins in the last 10, 11 seconds. And then Saban walks up to the student section and sort of does the wave like he did after the Tennessee game, right?
Yeah.
This year. The next year was Glenn Coffey's year. It was 2008. And it was dominant. They came out, they beat Clemson 38-13.
I remember that game.
It was a beatdown. And that was, Mark Ingram, it was his first game in an Alabama uniform, and he was an absolute stud. He played under Glenn Coffey, who was another stud. You had John Parker Wilson coming off a junior year that was left some to be desired.
Sure.
And it looked like he was going to figure it out. You had Julio Jones come in. And that's when the whole thing really started. It's really easy to look at 2007 and say, well, yes, date-wise, that's when it started, right? But you look at when the dynasty itself kicked off, it was that 2008 season. Now, granted, they lost to Florida in the SEC title despite having a fourth quarter lead.
They won undefeated regular season, man.
And then
that's a very forgotten team in Bama history.
And then 2009's, obviously the championship season. It's Alabama's first Heisman, their first of 4 that were all in the Saban tenure. 2 of them running backs, 1 wide receiver, 1 quarterback.
And then one thing I want to say. This is a part that, to me, and I knew I was going to Alabama at this time, so I was becoming a fan. I was rooting for Alabama. I was enjoying them winning and being good and having Saban.
Right.
But I remember the SI cover.
Yes.
Where it said Dynasty. I even remember going a little early for that. That's one title and a couple good years. And then it's like they called it. I mean, it was immediate. It was just, after that first title, it was, everybody in the country just decided that Bama was going to be the Dynasty team for the next 10 years. And he did it.
Yes. Right.
It was crazy.
Just to take a brief break on that. Greatest Nick Saban is a genius moment. Parker says, I know my answer, but curious what y'all think. I think there's 2 legitimate answers here.
For me, it's the Tua switch at halftime.
It's either switching Tua. The other one that I think is the onside kick versus Clemson. I think those are the 2 plays where you look at, and you can probably pick an echelon of memories that I'll probably soon forget. But I think those 2 are the biggest ones. And then obviously the ability to kind of keep Jalen involved and a part of the team and then put him in the 2018 SEC title game against Georgia, that's huge too.
Yeah.
Onside kick was Parker's choice, he says, yeah. But I mean, putting into it, no one had ever done
that. So, is this us? Oh, nice. Face mask.
Yeah, you can't do that at Stanford.
One of the things that I always like to tell people that don't really think, especially that don't think about sports like we do, is you look at the way that the city of Tuscaloosa has changed, at least from when I got there in 2010, and what it is now, and how much more there is. There's more people. The university's grown.
Yeah.
Probably almost doubled in size, and that is in large part due to the fact that out-of-state students wanted to be at Alabama because the football was so. They wanted to be part of what the football team was doing.
You know, you can look back and even they were building dorms.
Yeah.
After that first title, just from the money that was coming in, the revenue that was coming in. So you can imagine how it looked. You're running an option.
I was gonna try it, but I didn't like the lineup.
Didn't like the look. Oh my gosh.
Hey, that
So that
does
was
not
a great
ever
drive.
happen in this game.
Again, if you're listening on Pod, so we were playing NCAA 17.
Yeah,
14
3-yard touchdown run by Jam Miller.
by Jam Miller. Hopefully we hear that a lot next year. But yeah, and then you look at, sort of the legacy of Nick Saban, right? And what does that mean and what does that look like? You hit the nail on the head there. It's a legacy of him taking care of people in Tuscaloosa. I know, I saw that one.
It was very unclassy.
There's a legacy in Tuscaloosa of him taking care of the town itself, right? And you look at the tornado damage, you look at Nick's kids, the way that he's able to fund projects for both of those initiatives, and do more for the city than you could ever imagine. You look at him as a coach in that regard as well, sort of a community coach, where, it was 2020. His players feel neglected. They feel like they're not, their voices aren't being heard on police brutality and everything. He was the first coach to go and do a march and a speech with them, and they made a video about it. And regardless of where you fall on that political spectrum, which we'll get into that discussion maybe some other time off podcast, but he stuck up for his players. And when his players felt like they needed a leader,
team-wise, that brought that whole team together, man.
he volunteered to be that guy. That was something that was mentioned in the video that they put out with Tom Rinaldi, their thank you video to Saban they put out with Tom Rinaldi earlier this week.
Yeah, that was in there.
That was a huge part of it. And so when his players needed a leader and they wanted somebody to sort of be on their side, he was that guy. And there's just not much more you can ask
Yeah.
of a coach than that, to be there for his guys and to really, be somebody who's going to stick up for them for what they believed in. And like you said, it brought the team together. So just looking at his legacy outside of football is already super impressive, right? And then obviously between the lines and between the hashes, he survived how many different eras and looks and feels of college football, where not only was Alabama a contender, Alabama won in all of those eras, right?
It mirrors sort of what the other sports greats have done.
Yes.
Especially modern, because the eras change so quickly. LeBron is probably the easiest one to stick out there, because he's what he's been able to do as far as be wide open end zone.
Hold on. Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. He's been doing it for 20 years and he's still playing at the top of his game. He had longevity. He got better with the times. He got better with age in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
His best teams were some of the later teams. Some of the beginning teams are awesome too, but I mean that 2020 team is going to be talked about as one of the best teams in college football history, and that was in the last 80% of his time at Bama.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right, and that was during the first season of NIL and transfer portal and all that. So you look at all.
He won a title then. He won a playoff title during what they call the playoff era and the crystal ball era.
All the different eras, and it's not just the crystal ball era. It is the I-form era.
Yeah.
Like you can break it down into subsets where the crystal ball era is 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were 5 or 6 different iterations of what college football looked like during that time alone.
Yeah.
Right? You had all the legends retiring or getting fired in Joe Pa's case. And you had Saban still there, right? You had the I-form era where it was just smash mouth football. Everybody played smash mouth football. Mm-hmm. Oregon was weird because they passed all the time, right?
And then we decided to be weird with them, but we didn't like it at first. But that was Nick Saban doing what college football was doing.
Yeah.
And then doing it better.
Yes.
Getting Lane Kiffin was one of the smartest things he did. Now, it didn't work. It didn't work every single time, but him deciding to make that switch and make that his identity was the first part in Alabama continuing to win titles. Because had he not done that, it would have been 2009, 11, 12, and that would have been it. And they would have been a good team, but they wouldn't have been able to change with the times, and they would have been doing about what Clemson's doing now.
Right. And so I think, you look at all those different eras and you look at everything that he not only survived, but the amount of times he looked at a camera and said, y'all are not going to like when college football turns into this. And people thought, oh, well, he's old. He's not changing with the times. No, he was telling you, we're going to go do this better than you do, and it's going to upset you.
Yeah, and it's stupid because I can do it better, but I don't want to have to do this better.
Right.
This is not where the sport needs to be going, and he's been right in a lot of ways. I want to change gears. Start talking some favorite. Give me a favorite game or two.
Oh, favorite game.
Yeah.
The first ones that come to mind, obviously the 2017 Georgia national title.
Yeah.
I think the 2011 national championship sticks out to me as well. That was just dominance. Specifically, a game where we sat back and we were like, "Oh, he's about to be different." Was 2008 LSU. That was Saban is
I wanted to squeeze that in there so fast.
Saban is returning to Death Valley, right?
Yeah.
They're booing him, they hate him, and Alabama went out and won in overtime, and it was a great game. You look at the 2012 national title was a beatdown. 2012 SEC title was one of the best games in Alabama history. And then you can fast forward all the way to 4th and 31, and it's still games where it's just like, how the heck is a coach like him still doing this? Like, no wonder people hate Alabama. We don't stop pulling stuff like this. We've talked multiple times on this pod about how great this season was for us, and watching it and everything, and how disappointed we were. Yeah, we were disappointed, obviously, in how it ended, but nobody's going to be able to take this season from us because of what it looked like, and the coaching was a huge part of that all season. And I said this to you the other day. Sorry, now I'm just going off on a tangent.
I'm letting you. That's fine. It's a good tangent.
I said this to you the other day. People kept asking sort of, well, why now?
Yeah.
Right? Why now? Well, what mountain did he have left to climb?
He didn't. He didn't have anything else to
before
prove.
this season. It was taking a team that probably didn't really belong in the spot they were in to potentially be a national champion, right? He hadn't really done that. And so I think this year he kind of felt like it was his magnum opus. This was his Mona Lisa. He was able to take a group of guys that, this is bad. A group of guys that just weren't really championship caliber at the beginning of the season and turned them, a fourth quarter lead and a overtime guffaw away from being a national champion, right? So I think, there's a ton of games that you can look at, but he retired now because I think he kind of feels like the job is done and there's nothing else he really needs to. I just completely hit the wrong button there and threw a really bad pick. My bad.
Our first game is always terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. But yeah, so that's what I sort of will always remember and think of with this time is, this was the last thing he really wanted to do.
He proved the last thing left that an actual coach could possibly prove with his last title.
Right.
When he went undefeated, he did the 15-0 thing. He hadn't done that, right? Other teams had done that. Clemson had done that. He did that. That's going to get there. He didn't even reach for it. I hit the Y button.
Oof.
I hate when the game decides that that's an overthrow, even though your receiver's still quick enough to get there.
It's like, but no.
Don't let you catch it. And then he still made it to another national championship and another playoff and continued to finish top 5 every single season and won another Heisman. I mean, it's the amount of things that he was still able to do after he broke the record for wins ever is crazy.
Yeah. And he, it's really hard to look at Bear Bryant and put him in somebody's shadow, but Saban was able to do that.
Right. Which is, I mean, I'm trying to think of that's somebody going and putting Bill Belichick in his shadow 10 years from now.
Yeah, 20, but yeah.
20, sure, but,
Yeah, it's no, man, it's crazy. What are your favorite? What Saban games will you always remember?
I mean, the number one game probably of my football fandom.
2007 Arkansas, but I already mentioned that.
Right. Was taking Tua out. The walk-off Natty is going. I will probably die, and that's probably my favorite football moment, if not sports moment.
Yeah.
And he dominated the headline that day. Besides Tua, because of him making that decision. I'll try to think of a non-national championship game. I loved our light just died or turned off.
Okay.
I'll go fix that in a second.
No, it's just kind of moody. I kind of like it.
I don't know what happened there. But I loved the 2012 game in LSU where Yeldon scored that game-winning touchdown. That's always been one of my favorite games in Bama history.
2014 LSU is a great game too.
I think you were at that one.
I was.
I don't know how he dominated as long as he. I mean, it was. Four said something recently that made me think about Saban. I should have thrown him to X. That was terrible. Four said something recently that made me think about Saban, and he was talking about rooting for the Patriots all those years, and how he didn't really think a ton about. He enjoyed the regular season, but he didn't think a ton about it. It was a given. They were going to be in the AFC Championship, who are we playing there? And it kind of felt that way with Bama. Like going into seasons, it's 3 picks and a half.
I mean, we're just not on our game right now.
I'm gonna fix the light while I talk.
Yeah.
Going into seasons, we didn't think about the Arkansas game. We didn't think about losing these games. It was, we're gonna win 10 games, but how are we gonna get there?
Yes.
Oh, we were going off battery and not being plugged
powered.
into the wall. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And you're right. There was I was talking to my brother the other day, and we were talking about just our memories and things like that of what what my dad said when Saban got hired and everything. And one thing my brother brought up was he asked my dad one time, well, what was it like when Bear Bryant was there? And my dad mentioned there wasn't ever a week we thought we were going to lose.
Yeah.
There was never a game that we walked into and I thought we were going to lose.
10 years on this pod, how many losses have the two of us predicted and been right about?
And my brother, we talked about it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. My brother brought up that there were multiple games, where, yes, Alabama lost. Mm-hmm. We kind of looked at each other through the first quarter and went, oh, it's going to be one of those days, right? But how many games in the fourth quarter was Alabama just beat? 2?
1.
2?
That I can think of. I can think of the championship against Clemson.
Right. And that's post 2007.
And I do think that
probably post 2007 because there were some really ugly 2007 games. I mean, ULM was one of those games where we didn't feel like we were going to win.
Yeah.
Right. And that's insane to say, but it's true. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. And there's so many games where it was just like, who are we playing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Even in the playoff, Cincinnati, Notre Dame.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Washington, even when Washington was really good.
Washington was good. I mean, Jake Browning has done pretty well in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's who they played in that game. No, you're right. It's kind of a daunting thing now to like keep trying to. I mean, how do you quantify that presence, and how do you talk about it with the respect that you need to when it's leaving?
Right.
It doesn't feel like the things I'm saying. It feels like I'm just.
Well, you're never going to feel like you're not underselling how.
I feel like I'm underselling it all,
Yeah.
but it's probably going to be the greatest sports time of my life. I don't.
Yeah, I can't imagine another world where we get this.
Because college football is my sport. I mean,
but the crazy part is, my dad said the same thing. I'm never going to get that again.
Yeah, you
When
watch
Bear
the
Bryant
Braves win 14 straight or however many it was division titles. You watch the Braves dominate not in a Saban, but what I'm saying is you've lived through another sport
you're
that
right.
had a dynasty. I have too. The Spurs were a dynasty.
Well, the Predators went to that Stanley Cup that one time.
The Predators went to that one Stanley Cup. The Marlins won a World Series. But
relating the Saban dynasty to the Nashville Predators is the most cursed thing I've ever seen.
that's what I'm saying. Like, and just speaking to now, let's say Wemby just does everything that people think he can, and he goes and he wins 5 titles like Duncan did. I still don't think that I'm going to look back on it. I love the Spurs. They are one of my favorite things, but it doesn't it's college football. It's dominating college football has such a different feeling to it.
Yes.
It's more personal. And it helps that I grew up in Alabama, and I went to school at Alabama, and I've stayed in the South. And everybody in the South likes college football. Very few people in the South like the NBA, but at the same time, it's college football, and I'm just doing more of a college football spiel. But what makes it great in this regard is that it's so local, it's so personal, it felt so good watching all of my Auburn friends pretend that they didn't care as much as they did about the fact that Bama was dominating.
Yeah. I mean, they rolled Toomer's corner.
They rolled Toomer's corner when he retired.
That's the most little brother thing I've ever heard in my life.
People would always go, does it get boring winning all the time? I loved people throwing up their hands and going, fuck this guy. I'm serious. Like, it was so awesome. Like what I did today when Tavares Robinson left for Georgia, and I did it today. I'm already annoyed with Georgia. But we did that to teams every week. We'd take something that was theirs because it was Saban. He was that much better than everybody. And it's not just that he was a great recruiter. He was better at it, all of it. Getting players ready, the grind. The whole thing about Pate's spiel about like process-oriented thinking is so huge. He was almost a trailblazer for that. That's the way he talks about it.
Yeah.
Process-oriented thinking instead of result-oriented thinking. I've thought about things differently since hearing that. You want to reach a goal. Don't think about the result. Think about the process it's going to take to get there. And he didn't just say it to placate his players. He's just that dude.
Yeah.
He's just that guy that fully believes his own Kool-Aid to the point that he can lead a building of 1,000 people to championships.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep. And he
6 times, not 1 time, not one off, not what Harbaugh just did, which Harbaugh could win more, but 7 times in a career.
Right.
Crazy.
And then I think you look at, the way that he evolved as a person too, right? Is it's very go look at how he talked to people and how he carried himself from 2010 to basically when Tua got hurt.
Yeah.
That's when I think there was really a snap in his, maybe not in his psyche or anything like that, but just in the way that he sort of went about his life and the things he looked at. He had a grandbaby that year, right? And so I think you can also look at him and see an evolution of who he was.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
He was definitely hard around the edges and really tough to talk to, and quite frankly, pretty rude to a lot of people when he first got to Alabama. Now, it's different. It's changed. I think back to those press conferences, and then I think back to the press conference right after the 2021 national title, where he made Will Anderson and Bryce Young sit back down.
Yeah.
And say, I just want to say something about these 2 guys, right? Tua gets hurt, right? The way he handled that situation when Tua broke his hip and everything, it was just different. And sort of seeing, I feel like a lot of people still have the old Saban in their heads just because there haven't been as many headline quotes, right? All they see is him losing his mind on the sidelines every Saturday. Well, every coach does that, right? And I think watching his evolution and how he's changed as a person has been really interesting too. Again, we can't say enough about it. I'll tell the story. I've said on this podcast for over a decade now, college football is what?
It's cyclical.
Cyclical. It's a circle. It's a big circle. It always is. Sometimes the circle's a lot bigger than most, but everything goes back and comes around.
Other than baseball, most sports are.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think back to a time when I was really young. I was maybe 4 or 5. And it was a time when Tennessee was really good. And we were living in Tennessee, and Alabama lost to, I think, UCLA that night, and it was just brutal. It was just not a good night. And I asked my dad, I was like, hey, why do we root for Alabama? Like, we live in Tennessee, but, they're really not that good, and Tennessee's really good, and you really love college football. I was 5. I didn't know any better. And he told me, because when it gets going and we win, we win over and over again, there's nothing like this.
Nothing like it, man.
And I was like, as a kid, I was like, okay, well, I'm never going to see that. Like, the way he talks about Bear Bryant, I was like, there's just no way I'm ever going to see that. Yeah, I did. And actually, I saw it for a longer period of time, more successable than he did.
Did you see that 4th down play?
Yeah, that's pretty bad. We're not losing this game, though.
But that was like, come on now.
Got to secure the catch.
Oh.
But yeah, so that's one thing that I'll always think of too is, and now I'm at a stage in my life where, things are changing and it's cyclical, right? So yeah, that's where I am right now. Again, I'm more reflective than I am.
And he stopped the cycle because teams don't go on 17-year runs. That's unprecedented. Bear didn't go 17 years. He didn't win near the amount of games.
So,
I mean, he won a lot of games, but he didn't win 200 something.
Like I said.
Yeah.
It's a circle. Sometimes the circle's a lot bigger.
He kind of kept the circle going a lot longer because Alabama will start losing games that the country's not used to them losing.
Yes.
And
there are going to be a lot of growing.
People are going to be happy, and Alabama fans are going to have to learn that. And we're in the 4th quarter. We're going to start a second game and maybe start talking a little bit more future, but I'm not ready to go there yet. Also, we need to win this game. Heisman difficulty decided that we were going to struggle today.
I'm going to, not us throwing ridiculous passes. I'm going to run this clock down.
Nice. I got some field goal position. The game decided that we were going to go for it, so then I threw it at the yard marker. He was wide open, and he dropped it, so now I'm mad.
Oh, boy.
Where do we want to go now? I don't know, man.
Let's talk about this. What does Saban get named after him?
I think they should take like University Boulevard or something to name that after him.
He already has a street named after him, I believe.
He's got a statue, right? All you got to do is win a title to have a statue. He's had a statue.
That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do is just simply win a title.
He had one after his first title. He's had one since my first couple weeks at Alabama, they lifted that statue. So it's been 13 years that he's had one now, 14 years.
So I think you name it's Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Or get rid of Denny. He has the chimes.
All right, easy.
Bryant Saban Stadium. I'm on that. He has the chimes. Denny's got the chimes.
I completely understand where you're coming from with that.
Name the stadium after him.
Do you know anything about President Denny at all?
I'm
genuine. I'm not even trying to be a jerk. Do you know anything about him
very
at all,
little,
or what he did for the university? Do you have any idea?
I know very little. I also know that they have Danny Chimes named after him. Nick Saban did a lot for that football program and for the university. Name the stadium after him.
A lot of what you see at Alabama right now would not exist without President Denny.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that.
And I get what you're saying.
I get that.
Why not name the field after him?
I think it makes a bigger impact to name the stadium after him. People call it by the stadium. I'm going to play at Bryant-Denny. Nobody goes, I'm going to play at Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I want to hear people go, oh, I don't want to go into Bryant Saban Stadium. That goes so damn hard. I have a great point. You have a great point.
There's an argument for it, but I
know. I'm not trying to short sell Denny. He is widely remembered at the university. But if you're going to ask me what I think they should name after Nick Saban, if it's not University Boulevard, I think he should be in the stadium. I also think that a lot of teams should do that. Because FSU does Bobby Bowden Field at Doak Campbell.
Hold on. Paxton Rimbus said something. Ignore his comment right now.
Okay.
He asked me where Bill O'Brien's statue was the other day. This is within an hour of Saban retiring. He asked me where Bill O'Brien's statue was. So if you want to go off on Paxton Rimbus right now,
I think that's
nothing's saving you.
I think that's a great bit. How do we get a touchdown?
I just scored.
Oh, good.
Oh, my bad.
I mean,
I asked him where it was right. I told him it was right next to YSU's national championship trophy. To which he sent me some Wikipedia article about some JUCO third grade trophy they won, like I was supposed to care about it.
Yeah.
But Paxton, we'll go ahead and answer your question. Where does Bond transfer to?
Texas. It's already been decided.
They've
given him an NIL piece. He's ready to get in there and get working.
He said BOB technically coached a national championship team.
He did?
Yes. He was the head coach, too.
He did. So did Doug Messmeyer, and so did Nick Saban gave a lot of dudes chances at Natty's that had no shot, had no business deserving them. Yep. He didn't nail every hire. That was probably one of the weaker things he did.
Josh Gaddis
is some of the hires he made, but
although Josh Gaddis is now a national champion.
Every coach that goes 17 years has some coaches that didn't work out. But that was probably the biggest mistake he ever made.
Parker says go rogue, rename Gorgas Library after Saban. Saban Library.
Name that after Denny. The football stadium should be named after the football coach that won 7 championships.
I don't disagree with you. Name it after like Wallace Wade. How about that? What if we threw a curveball at everybody? We're like, hey, Duke, you don't get Wallace Wade Stadium anymore. That's ours now.
Yeah, it should be like one of those things, where they talked about, for a while it was a thing, and LeBron got involved, which was like, should they retire the number 23 across college football? Or, across the NBA.
I was about to say they better
right?
not.
Like they did with 6 recently with Bill Russell. How could you honor Saban in that regard? You can't retire a number for him, but you can make everybody wear a Nick Saban decal.
He wore number 12, which is like the only number in Alabama history that pretty much everybody unanimously thinks should be retired.
Yeah.
Right? So you have Joe Namath. You have, I'm not joking, dozens of dudes that wore that number at Alabama that were God-tier players, right? So you could do that, but again, we don't like it. Let's see. Paxton says, should the new NCAA video game have an Ask Saban play calling feature?
Well, when he's taken over for Corso, it might.
He said, where Saban just bitches at you for being stupid.
That would be awesome.
That would be fantastic.
I hope they do. I bet they could. Okay, because like a lot of people think
Saban's going to put on Lee Corso's headgear every week?
I think he'd find his own gimmick. I don't think he would follow the Corso gimmick. But there are people that think that's the next step for him is just replacing Corso.
I love that move. Gosh, the dead leg. Yeet. You remember that time we thought we might lose this game and then we won 49-35?
Oh, it was nice. Look at him going 0 for 0, 0 yards that drive. That's the stat that they showed you. I miss some of the old quirks of old video games like this.
I do too. But now we've got perfect video games that work every time you play them. Yes, so Paxton, I think that's a great idea, honestly. I really like the idea of having Saban in the video game or on the cover, maybe.
Well, I do think that that's what. I mean, there have been a lot of people calling for him to be on the cover of the game, which would be huge for us.
That's big for us.
Big for us.
Big for us. If they put J.J. McCarthy on it, I'm not buying it. That's untrue, but I won't.
I'm probably buying it for two, maybe 3 different platforms.
Should we just take a pause and talk about the national title game right quick?
Yeah, well, we're kind of in
Just
between.
to get it over with. Oh, it's Iron Bowl week, too.
It is.
NCAA 14. Okay, national championship was, I tweeted it from Pat's Interference. I said, there's so much talent not on display in this game.
It was a good game, but it was also a little bit of a, it wasn't a bad
game.
And
I think it's really easy. We've got the score at the bottom right here, 34-13.
It just keeps popping because I don't know.
But I think
I didn't put another score in there this week.
I can't think of anything less cool than Saban being on the cover of the first NCAA game in over a decade. They'll put Tebow on it.
I saw a good.
They'll put Tebow or Cam Newton.
I saw a good suggestion, which was like they could make, and this is maybe too Saban-y for the return, but I don't care because I'm an Alabama fan. But if they put like Saban, Smart, like first Saban, and then like a lot of his assistants like Smart, Kiffin, those dudes like kind of all on the cover would be kind of neat.
Paxton said the cover should be a collage of all the guys who could have been on the cover in the past 10 years.
That is the easiest thing to do.
Then I would put Derrick Henry, Devontae Smith, maybe who else would you put? Do you Paxton? Do you just want to put Heisman winners?
If you're gonna do one, you got to do all.
Because then you've got to put Devontae Smith on there as well. And now you've got 3 Alabama guys, and I know Paxton doesn't want to do that.
Is that what he's just trying to keep Alabama guys off of there?
He's like, how can I make sure that we get Johnny Manziel, Cam Newton, and Bo Jackson all on the same NCAA cover?
No, he wants Barnes from Utah on there, right?
Yeah, yes.
He wants to see Barnes or I don't know.
Parker says Bryce. 2-win
Don't y'all forget about Stetson Bennett.
NFL quarterback.
Stetson Bennett would be.
Stetson Bennett. Yeah, Jade's over here actually. Jade's just been sitting here.
All right, I'm gonna start this Iron Bowl.
This is not an anti-Alabama campaign. Paxton, there's never been a conversation about college football I've had with you that wasn't an anti-Alabama campaign. Even you're like a sleeper agent. I don't think he realizes he's doing it sometimes. They should put Drake May on the cover.
Anything else we want to say about the Natty? I mean,
yes, I do have things I wanted to say. Sorry, I got distracted by Paxton's anti-Alabama rhetoric. I'm just kidding, Paxton. I miss you. I love you.
I'm just sitting here for a second.
It was a fine game. It was really sloppy. A couple things. Michigan's run game's awesome. Washington did the thing that teams that lose to Michigan try to do all the time, which is play Michigan football.
Yeah.
Penix had his worst game he's had all season. I hate that it came in that game. They were down 7 going into the fourth quarter. A lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, it was a blowout. And it got to be a blowout.
It did.
But there was a large chunk of the game where I was waiting on Michigan to take the ball and run away with it.
Washington
and they just didn't do it.
Washington had a comeback in them. They didn't do it, which is okay. That happens, right? I mean, Washington fans wish they did. It wasn't a bad game because, again, until about the fourth quarter, I mean, that whole third quarter was a touchdown game. With Washington having the ball a lot of that game, they just didn't capitalize. Penix was missing some throws. There was a little bit of ref ball, but I don't think this game is going to be remembered as a ref game. A little bit of that, but not like enough that it's a talking point anymore.
Can I say something that's really funny that just happened?
Yeah.
Bull Bruce came in and said, I bought a box of oatmeal cream pies this morning, and Twitch just put stars everywhere because of cream pie. It's like, what are we doing, man?
I like that Bruce knows about the oatmeal cream pies. That's college football knowledge from him. He knows his stuff, man.
Yeah, Parker says Penix was hurt basically the entire second half. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Their running back was hurt. They just weren't a full team. But credit where credit's due. Michigan played a great game. They had a good game plan. They had a good offensive structure all year. They were able to run the ball with multiple dudes that were horses.
Yeah.
And I love the fact so much that people like in the Big Ten country complain so much about what the SEC has done for all these years.
Yeah.
And then Michigan finally wins the title on the shoulders of cheating and weak scheduling, just like the SEC has done, and running the ball really hard. And again, credit to where it's due. Michigan had a great team. It's an awesome season for them. Don't let anyone put an asterisk on it because that's dumb. Don't let anyone tell you it didn't matter. Even if they vacate it, celebrate it like USC does. Like, who cares? They're not going to vacate it. You earned it. You deserved it. You should enjoy yourself. It was a good national championship, a good season for Michigan. That's that.
Yeah, I've been hard on Michigan. I've said many times, many years. This a bit for years for me on this podcast has been, I'm done with Michigan, and I have been but Michigan shut me up in a lot of the ways that LSU did in 2019 with Joe Burrow.
Yep.
Teams make me look like frauds, and Michigan made me look like a big fraud this year. Not a team I fully really bought into for a lot of the year until maybe a little bit later. I thought Alabama was going to beat them in the playoff. I think Alabama could beat them in the playoff. It doesn't matter. Michigan beat everybody on their schedule. They beat most of them pretty convincingly. I think all of them pretty convincingly. Even Bama, they beat Bama convincingly, even if it did go to overtime. I didn't leave that game going, Bama gave that game away. Michigan made plays. Bama had a chance. Hats off to Michigan. Great season. And I will say this, I'm going to be a bit of a jerk because I wish I would have celebrated Michigan winning this tie. I've always kind of liked Michigan. Like, as far as I like Texas more than Oklahoma. I prefer Michigan to Ohio State. Those big rivalries, that's the team I've always leaned. I've always leaned their colors. I like the way they look. I like kind of what they are. I like the big house. I like the vibe. I could make a great Michigan fan. I don't think I'd make a great Ohio State fan in my mind. That doesn't make any sense
unless
that's
because you don't do CrossFit.
But I found obviously they became the villain of college football until the playoff kind of came around. But Michigan, regular season-wise, was the villain of college football this year, which made it hard for me to really care about them. Unfortunately, my feelings don't matter, even though I am the protagonist. And
Are you good? I feel like you're going through it right now.
I'm just, I know that we have Michigan people, and you have a Michigan friend that listens to us a lot, and I know that I've been a jerk about their team. And so what I'm trying to say is, nice title, really good title.
They're a great SEC program.
Great, a program that's ready to roll. They could win it again next year. They're going to be one of the favorites. They're not going to be in the top 5 probably because they're losing some dudes. But
does Harbaugh stay?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I would probably, gun to my head right now, say no. I think Harbaugh really wants that Super Bowl. I think that family kind of plays, his brothers won one and he hasn't. Now he has a title. I think that the allure of the Chargers specifically, that program, that situation, franchise quarterback, and they're just missing a guy that knows how to put it all together.
Yeah.
And also it's in LA and not Michigan. That's going to be such a strong draw. I would leave Michigan for that job right now.
Yep.
So I don't think he stays. But Michigan can afford to make him say no. You can make more on a per year basis as a college coach right now with the way everything's set up than you can in the NFL, right? There's a reason that people kind of believe that DeMeco Ryans would maybe consider Alabama, and that's because he's making $4.5 million in Houston.
So there's also the thing of your leash is a lot longer in college, especially after you win a national title.
Yes.
Because Harbaugh could realistically he could stay at Michigan, have 4 very bad seasons.
He'll never leave Michigan if he doesn't want.
And
he's earned his right to stay. He won a championship at Michigan. He can stay there as long as he wants.
Yeah.
It's like Saban. Saban could have stayed as long as he wanted. Kirby Smart can stay as long as he wants. But I do think he leaves. I think he wants that Super Bowl. I don't know. I mean, I could also see him using this, kind of like Sarkisian just did, all those coaches, using this to get his pay raise at Michigan. But Saban's done that before. He used Texas to get pay raises. So I don't know. Right. I think he leaves, though. Let's start this game.
Congrats to Michigan. Mm-hmm. Great national title. That's probably going to be the last time we talk about this national championship the rest of the episode. So sorry if you're... I will try and put that in the episode description, too, of when we talked about Michigan for our Michigan friends. But the rest of this is going to be about the actual...
We would have talked a lot more if Saban hadn't retired Wednesday. Yeah. Let's just call it that. There's a bigger headline in college football as we sit here on the couch today, the 13th.
Oh, look, they're playing at Nick Saban Field.
36 minutes from the opening press conference from DeBoer.
They're playing at Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium for this game.
I want the stadium named after him. Oh, man.
So, not the library?
No. You can name the stadium after the guy that won the most titles at Alabama, and you can name the library after the guy that read the most books.
Okay. Which in Alabama is like 8 books.
That's right.
It's like 9 or 10 books.
He read 8 Hardy Boys books, and he is now the sole record holder.
Parker says, where can I watch the DeBoer presser? I don't know. No one's brought that up.
I mean, I could
Saban's presser was on ESPN, but
I'm sure it'll be
DeBoer's gonna
streamed to
get that.
YouTube by the Alabama Athletics page.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, I was like, I put that on the spot. He dropped it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Kalen DeBoer a little bit. Obviously,
So the search was crazy.
the search really wasn't.
It wasn't the craziest college coaching search as ever, like I thought it was going to be. It wasn't even as crazy as some of Tennessee's most recent ones. It kind of got done a little bit. For a minute there, it looked like it was going to get hairy.
Yeah. Right.
And then it got fixed really quick yesterday about this time.
yeah. Why is this scrub still playing on our team?
I forgot to take
Did
him
you
out
cut
full
him?
time. He's not a scrub. I scored a 30-yard touchdown with
No,
him
I know,
last game.
I know.
But yeah, he's not our
He's
starter.
no Jam Miller.
He's our backup.
ABC 3340 will be streaming it.
Oh, thank
Oh, I
goodness.
should have told you that. Yeah, they're going to. Okay, so I can promise you right now that ABC 3340 will have their live view there. They're going to be connected. You will be able to stream it right off their YouTube page.
The microphone might even be unmuted.
Oh, man. No, I'm sure Johnny's there. Johnny's the man. He's going to do a good job with this.
Yeah, he's not the other one who leaves his mic muted.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, so Kalen DeBoer is one at every level. I say as I pull up his wiki page because I don't have memorized. But Sioux Falls, he won 3 titles. He went to 5 championships. That's obviously a D2 school. Despite what Paxton Rimbus thinks about D2 schools, I think the D2 and FCS matter quite a bit. But yeah.
That's NAIA, right? Does Paxton care about NAIA?
I don't know.
That's hard to say fast.
Paxton Rimbus, do you care about NAIA football?
You nailed that first time. NAIA, I can't do that.
NAIA.
Rivalry week, NAIA. I am so good at talking. I am.
Look at you
Listen,
growing.
they used to pay me to
That's
talk about this stuff on
growth,
TV,
dude.
bro.
That is growth.
Man, I'm that guy.
Okay. He was at Fresno State in 20 and 21. Was at Washington, obviously, 22 and 23. That's the stop I want to talk about the most because before he got there, Washington was I think a 4-8 team.
They were struggling.
And
Washington is a team that is
he came in,
very cyclical.
And now, granted, a lot of it was on the shoulders of Michael Penix, but he came in and took them to a national title in year 2.
He did.
He is coming in with quite a few more pieces at Alabama.
Of course it was on the shoulders of Michael Penix. What team like Washington makes championships without at least a player of Michael Penix's caliber?
Yeah. So, okay, hold on. Sioux Falls is NAIA, not D2. Durham NC, home of the NAIA National Championship. Did you know? I did not know that. So apparently Paxton does care about that level of football.
Of course he does, man. Of course he does. Hey, I can't take that away from him. He knows his lower levels of college
While
ball.
I know we have him, I want him to be a part of our off-season discussion about G5 versus P5 versus FCS.
Yeah, I think his feelings matter more than ours in that regard. I think that's
they
safe to
absolutely
say.
do. So Paxton, if you're available and willing to come back on the podcast, I would love to have you on that discussion. I would also like Leslie Martin on that discussion to talk G5.
That'd be fun.
Forrest to talk G5. You, me, and Parker to talk about P5.
That's a big thing. Is
Jay to talk about high school football.
I'm just gonna do this now since you brought it up. I was gonna say this at the end of the podcast, but we were gonna take, other than like breaking stuff, we'll take probably a small break from streaming because we're going to redo the setup. This was kind of, it wasn't thrown together, but this is a learning curve for us. We're gonna move. We're gonna have our own code. I'm gonna call it a studio.
Hold on, Paxton Rimbus. South Dakota State would have beat every G5 team in the country this year.
I mean, maybe they just dominated that championship.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna say yes or no.
Paxton, is that you confirming you will come on the podcast? That's what I'll say there. Chat, let us know who else needs to be on the pod there.
I have a Paxton question. Paxton, please listen, and I want you to answer me in the comments.
This should be good.
How close to what you just said? I don't know if what you're saying is outlandish or not, so this is a serious question. You know when people say
SCAD football undefeated, says Andrew Green.
like back during the day when people would say, can Bama beat the Browns? Like kind of during the peak of Bama and the lowest of the Browns, and that was a meme. How close is that to the South Dakota State would beat every G5 team, like James Madison? Like how close? Like is it serious that you actually think that they would have beaten James Madison, who was, I don't know, were they the best G5, one of the best G5 teams? Or like, I don't know, how are you joking or are you serious they would have beaten all of them? Please let me know.
We also interviewed Brandon Boatman about the Michigan win. Clap it up right quick for Brandon Boatman. I'm so happy for him, man.
What is his allegiance to Michigan?
He likes them. He likes Michigan sports, though.
I just didn't. I guess I knew he liked the Pistons from like I talked to him about it. I didn't realize it extended into.
I don't know if anybody likes
Michigan
the Pistons
football
right now. I think you tolerate. I think you have an immunity to watching the Pistons.
They were.
I think you're like one of the first people to
Listen,
get the vaccine.
Hey, listen. I get it. I understand the Spurs are that way, but listen, the ping pong ball bounces different ways sometimes, man. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
What do you even mean by that?
I'm sorry, man. That you can win 14 games in a season, be by far the worst team in college or in the NBA.
That's a pick. Oh, nope.
Be the worst team in the NBA and still pick 5th.
JMU
tough.
at its peak versus South Dakota State would have been an incredibly competitive game.
Okay. So he's not joking. He thinks that there's a chance that they would have beaten him. I don't know what the talent difference is between the top of the
Parker said
D3 and G5.
Bro. Okay, so back to our discussion on Kalen DeBoer. He's won at every level he's been at. That's a good sentence. He's won at every level he's been at.
He's won everywhere he's been, bro.
He was the Walter Camp Coach of the Year this year, the Sporting News Coach of the Year, the Home Depot Coach of the Year, the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year.
Grade the higher.
The AP Coach of the Year. Right?
Grade the higher. Give it a letter grade. Just not instant reaction, but
what, like realistically, it's a B plus. I think everybody kind of wanted a Sarkeesian type name, or if I score off this.
You did.
That is an unbelievable play.
You did.
I just called a running back screen,
you
ran it, scrambled to the side that he was on and scored. So yeah, I'd say it's a B plus. Paxton says A minus B plus. Parker. Paxton says JMU faltered down the stretch. Sad. Sark would have been better, but I'm happy with it overall, says Parker. I don't think Sark, I don't think Kirby, I don't think any of those guys that are that sort of home run level name, looking back on it, Lanning, were ever going to be the guy who took over for Saban.
Here's one of my main questions. You don't want to be
the guy stepping to the plate after the dude in front of you hit a grand slam.
Here's one of my questions. Do you think, because obviously if you just followed message boards and Twitter all day, you have no idea what happened. And nobody knows really what happened in the coaching search. But you have two things, right? Alabama struck out, and this is what fans of other teams are saying. Alabama struck out on a lot of dudes. And now people are saying, no, DeBoer was always his top choice, and this was just a little bit of Sexton getting his guys paid. I can't complete a pass today.
It's okay.
In this game.
You're going to figure it out.
So do you think that guys like Lanning, or maybe not even Lanning, but Sark, those dudes all actually got offers? Or do you think that they just were able to do what Saban's been able to do a few times, leverage that into paydays?
Maybe out of everybody that was discussed, I think Sark was probably the only one that got at least reached out to.
I bet they did too, because he was supposed to be coach in waiting at Alabama.
So I bet he's the only one that got discussed, but I think there were a lot of preemptive actions by other teams. This is something that Spencer Hall said on his Channel 6 newsletter the other day about Saban, where he created mountains everywhere he went, even if he wasn't the one actively doing something. He just changed the course of 3 different programs like that.
He did.
Texas, Oregon are both locked in now. Florida State, you can also add to that list, is locked in on their coaches. Paxton says, how much say did Saban have in the coaching search? I think a pretty good deal. We don't know the answer for that for sure. But the way that Alabama's social media team handled the hiring last night made me think that he was a big part of it.
It was definitely consulted.
There was his goodbye graphic, and Paxton will kind of like this because I liked the way that they ran this. There was Saban's goodbye graphic. There was the Kalen DeBoer hiring graphic. And then there was the Saban comment on Kalen DeBoer's hiring. Yes. I think it was handled very well because all Alabama people needed to hear was Saban say, hey, good job.
Yeah.
And that was that. I think Saban probably had a good deal of advice to give. You know, he was at the Malmore building. He was at the athletic building right before he officially retired.
He was there the last 2 days, I know.
So I think there was probably a pretty good he had a pretty good say, I would say. You know, obviously I don't think the final call was his or anything, but I think he presented a list that he thought would be able to take over, and they kind of followed that list. Maybe not to a T, but as much as they could. That was a great play.
Yeah. Coach Stradamus helped me out there, I'll be honest. He said zone blitz. Like, all right, tight end's open.
Yeah, 3 NAIA championships, 4 GPAC championships, 1 Pac-12 championship for Alabama's current head coach. That is the Great Plains Athletic Conference of NAIA fame.
I'm happy with the hire. I'm not blown away. I was whelmed yesterday. I'm a little bit more than whelmed now.
I hate losing Tavares Robinson. We need to mention Alabama losing their top recruiter.
We will.
And that's something that needs to be said, but we can wait on that.
I'm excited to see. There's a level of. I don't want to be. I don't want to speak too strongly here. I don't want this statement to come too strong, but there is a level of excitement that can come with a new era.
Right.
Right? There is no denying that recently Alabama has taken a step back, right? Now, I'm not saying that DeBoer is going to come in and do better than Saban's been doing. That is absolutely ridiculous the last couple years.
No, well,
But a fresh energy, a new name, a new era can. Obviously, I'd rather go into next year with Nick Saban as head coach. But I'm a little excited to see
so
where this
would
goes.
every college program in the country.
Right. There's not a single team in the country, even Georgia, maybe Georgia, that would say otherwise. Everybody else is going, even Michigan's going, I'd like to have the GOAT in there for one. If I could have him for a season, I'm taking the GOAT.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's so good at those week-to-week adjustments that teams need. He takes teams like what Alabama looked like in week 3 last year and turns them into playoff teams because of the process-oriented thinking. Now, I'm excited to see what DeBoer can do. Everything since then, since the hire, has been all very positive, everybody's saying the right things. I'm sure he's going to get up at the podium soon and say all the right things. It's going to be very exciting. He has a lot of pressure, though, to nail this first press conference.
He does.
Because Saban nailed his to the point where they played his sound bites in it for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they still play those sound bites in Bryant-Denny when pregame. This is not the end. This is the beginning, which I know isn't his introductory press conference, but
that was
quotes like that.
That was actually a championship parade.
Yeah, he said. I know that, but little quotes like
yeah.
that at the beginning are what get played for years.
Yes.
The whole I'll name one from his introductory press conference where he said, "I want to be the type of team that guys say I hate playing against these guys." That's his exact inflection. I'm really good at impressions. And
Yeah, you nailed that, man. We can all see how you nailed that.
Episode of just him doing impressions.
I actually have some good impressions, then I've got some really bad ones. I used to get made fun of, and I'm just going to do one of my Patrick tangents. I used to get made fun of at my old job in Florida because one of our reporters, Tiffany, would always ask me to do my Shrek voice. So I would do it. I mean, okay, so close your eyes.
No.
Close your eyes, and you're going to be like, I'm watching the movie. What are you doing in my swamp? It's like I'm Michael Myers.
You sound...
Thank you!
Incredible.
Validation after years of this.
You sounded like Forrest Gump got a massive concussion.
What are you doing in my swamp? Nailed it again. And that's the only phrase I know. Or donkey, but everybody can do the Shrek donkey. That's not unique. So, Kalen DeBoer's in Alabama.
No, we're not just sailing past that.
The most important podcast we've done. Kalen DeBoer's at Alabama.
Can you look up and see if the OC is officially?
He's getting ready for his presser. But there are rumors, and I won't take it beyond that he's going to bring Grubbs with him, which would be huge.
Huge.
We'll get in. Okay, so you gave us his background. We know he just played for a championship. We know he's a year younger than Kirby. So we finally have a young coach in at Alabama again.
Isn't he like? Never mind. Keep going.
T-Rob is already going to Georgia, but a lot of people are saying that was probably going to happen even if Saban stayed. Basically, the only thing that was going to keep T-Rob was him being Saban's DC. I don't think he was going to leave. I would rather be the DC at Georgia than at Alabama right now, and I'm just being honest. If that's my career I'm talking about, that's where I'm going. So he lost him. I'm not even going to ask this as a question. I think the next 48 to 72 hours, I'll even extend it to a week, might be the most important that DeBoer even faces at all. What he can do to help his first year, his perception is going to be everything after this season.
I think there's also going to be, I mean, this Alabama team next year, and we're looking ahead right now, but next year I think realistically should look at a 9-win season, 8 or 9-win season.
But for DeBoer, imagine how much of a jump he gets to if they don't. Year one, if he can come in and win double-digit games or even compete at a high level.
All you said was they don't.
Oh, yeah, don't win 9.
So if they win 7?
Sorry, I meant
I see what you're saying.
if he can hold the roster intact, get recruiters in, and get this thing, he has everything, it's all on him is basically what I'm saying. It's up to him, how he does in the next week or so.
Your brain is all over the
It
place
is.
right
Is
now,
going
and I
to
love
set
it.
up how much of Nick Saban's inertia he can keep.
Yes.
That is what he has to do. He's handed the keys to a Ferrari. Nick Saban took over a broken go-kart without a motor and a key.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? He took over a terrible
Some
program.
of us were very fond of that 2006 Alabama team.
You have told me time and time again how bad they were when he first got there. Every time you go, you don't remember those times. I'm trying to remember those times.
Oh, do you remember those times?
I remember those times. I remember how bad Bama was. I just didn't care.
I think
But he's taking over Ferrari. If he can keep it going, then he can keep it going.
we don't know that. We don't know how many players are going to transfer out. They have what, 30
Right.
days?
What I'm saying is he has. He
Yes.
can say the things that he can do the things necessary to keep him there if he needs to.
That's the thing. I think that's where you and I differ. I don't think there's a lot he can do right now.
No, but
There's not a lot he can do or say that will convince a kid that's wanted to
money wise, no. But
that's wanted to play for Nick Saban for X amount of years, and all of a sudden Nick Saban's not there. I don't know why you stay.
sure,
If you're a Caleb Downs, I don't know why you stay.
sure, he can talk them into it.
For sure. I don't think he will.
He probably won't, but he can. And if he does, think about how much better it is.
So
That's
let me
what
ask
kind of
you
what I'm
this:
saying.
what's more important, retaining players or hiring the correct coordinators? And I know it's sort of chicken and the egg. One sort of leads to the
yeah.
other, but
I mean, I would say retaining the players initially. You know,
I agree with
this is an SEC that's also adding Texas and Oklahoma.
you. Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I would say keeping the players. I mean, he's not going to win if he doesn't do either well. But players first. He can. It's a lot. There's going a lot to be falling on him in the next. I can't believe that the game let them score there. That's annoying. Play the next possession too. There's 14 seconds a half.
Okay. I'm gonna go score right quick, but then I'll play.
Yeah, I know my brain. I was trying to form a thought, and I just kind of got tripped up there because I'm a fraud without a teleprompter. But
What's your deal today, man?
just having fun.
You're fine.
Man, I don't know if he. I'm interested. Basically, the next 72 hours are all just on what he's capable of doing. Nobody's going to blame him if Caleb Downs leaves,
No.
but he will get all the roses if he does convince him to stay. I'm interested to see what he's capable of doing in this space. 9 months before games are even being played. What can he do?
I just got crushed. Let me ask you a question that I sort of texted you today. Or actually, I'm just going to say this as a thought, and I want you to try and counter-argue if you think I'm wrong. How's that?
I'm also looking up where the presser is going to be because I just realized we never actually answered that question.
There is so much pressure on Georgia right now to become that team that there hasn't been before.
Yes.
There just has not.
Yes.
Next year has to be Georgia. It has to be Georgia's year to win it. Must.
If they lose to Bama this year, it could get
That's
not
what I mean.
rough. Yeah.
There is no bigger pressure on an SEC school this year than Georgia with a
Presser's going to be streaming everywhere on YouTube. If you just type in Kalen DeBoer while it's going, you're going to find a live stream.
It is. Yeah, we should probably wrap this up pretty soon. But it is going to be a year where you have a down Alabama, a down LSU.
Yeah.
Tennessee is decent, but they're starting a brand new quarterback. This is the year, yes, you have Texas that you've got to play, but at the same time, you win that game, you're good, right? They've got a really, really tough schedule next year, finally, Georgia. And I think they can do it, but there is a ton of pressure to be the team in the SEC this year for them.
There is.
What do you think?
There is. I would say yes, next year. I'm actually gonna probably agree with you, but also back off. If Kirby hadn't already won 2 titles, it would be probably the most pressureful season a coach has faced ever. Now, yes, it is cementing your place in the. Everybody's doing that, but probably no more than Kirby as far as cementing your spot in the conference.
Right.
Texas has got a lot too. Sark's got a lot.
Quinn Ewers.
Yeah,
Quinn Ewers
he's
is
got Quinn Ewers
returning.
coming back.
If you're Arch Manning, do you stay? A lot of people are saying, well, maybe Arch starts looking now.
The backup left. From everything I've read, Arch, because Arch isn't in this for NIL because he's a Manning. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
No,
something
I
to
mean,
be said there. His uncles are
the Kennedys aren't shopping at Goodwill.
right. His uncles have won
That's kind of a mean thing to say.
like
isn't
4
it?
Super
I
Bowls
don't know
combined.
If I'm allowed to say that. I'm sorry if I just offended someone.
I'm blowing past it then. I didn't even really fully hear it, and I'm not offended. So that's all that matters, right? I made that worse. No, but from what I've read is he's more in this for a college experience. He wants to be a college quarterback. He likes Texas, so that's why he chose Texas and not Ole Miss like his dad, not Tennessee, or his uncle, not Tennessee like his uncle, not Ole Miss like his
Well, he chose not to go to
grandfather.
Tennessee because he loves himself.
Exactly.
That's just practicing good mental health. I wouldn't want to be in Tennessee either.
I think he's fine taking over a starter next. I also don't think he's as good as people thought he was coming out of high school, so I think he does need coaching. I don't know that he's ready to be a starter. Nice touchdown.
Thank you.
Needed that. Keeping Caleb Downs is imperative, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about how big it would be if Ryan Grubb comes. Actually, I'm going to wait it.
I looked and there's nothing.
When I was looking for this, the people that I like had a thread on what they are hearing on Ryan Grubb, so I'll just go to Bama Online. Bama Online, who's usually right about this kind of stuff, is saying that Ryan Grubb is likely to join Caleb DeBoer at Bama. So let's run like that's happening.
Maybe serious mutual interest between Iowa, DC, Phil Parker, and Alabama. That would be huge.
That would awesome. Iowa DC would be awesome. I would be all on board with that.
Yeah.
Oh, negative 2-yard rush starting the drive at the 4 is not the way you want to start. So you know what you do with that? Let's even get a 98-yard touchdown for the stream.
Oh, jeez.
Would this be 99? Let's do it.
No, it's going to be 98.
Let's cheese it, make the DBs cheat up.
Oof, this is going to be a tough ball. Oh, you got him. You got him. Come on. It's for the stream. Oh, man. Come on. Sorry if you're on podcast. We just got tackled at the 50.
Sorry if you have Ed headphones in. I just screamed.
Oh, gosh.
I can't believe he shoestringed them. I hate Auburn so much.
God, I don't like Auburn. Imagine rolling the trees at Toomer's Corner because Saban retired.
I mean, it's one of those, like, I guess as you should, but should you? Like, hey, I get it. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The Munchkins were also very happy when the witch died.
I want to continue the Twitch stream, but we need to let podcast go because we're at an hour and 15. Podcast, thank you for listening. In closing, your favorite Nick Saban quote of all time.
Hold on, let me pause. Let me give it a slight thought. I guess gut reaction, the one that comes to mind, and this is more of a funny, is shit through a tin horn. I don't know why that one has always stuck with me. It's one that I think about in regular life.
Yeah.
When something passes through something, I think went through like shit through a tin horn.
Yep.
So that's the one.
I'd say that's up there for me. A funny one and then a more emotional one. I will probably say funny when he got tackled on the sideline and had cuts and he walked up to the podium and said, yeah, they don't make them like they used to. That was a good one. And then my other favorite one is definitely when he set Bryce Young and Will Anderson back down after the national title loss and said one game does not define who these people are as players and all that jazz. That's just a good coach. That's what being a good coach looks like. And anybody who wants to get into coaching, obviously they're going to look at Nick Saban for the blueprint. And that's where you start. So podcast, thank you for listening.
One more. I do love his story about when he was trying to date Terry Saban, and there was another guy that she was interested in, and blah 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 and blah and all that. And it's a long story. You have to look it up on YouTube. But basically, the whole story is, and then he drives her past Bryant Denny and says, "Now just imagine if you married him." And she goes, "Oh, I can. He'd be the head coach at Alabama right now." Great story.
Dynamite too.
And it's a lot longer and better told when he tells it. But
Parker says the rat poison this week was yummy. That was a good one.
Rat poisons. Yeah.
That's good. But anyway, all right, podcast, thank you for listening. We're going to take about, like Brick said earlier, about a month hiatus, rejigger some things. We may come on and do a little flash pod here and there. Oh, goodness, son. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. But just follow us on Twitter at @PI_podcast. And keep up with our Twitch stream, too. Twitch.com/PatsInterference, so you can watch us and hang out with us. Other than that, it was a great college football season. Thank you for listening.
See you, pod.
We will talk to you soon.
Roll Tide,
podcast.
baby.
Roll Tide. Bye-bye.
Parker, are you listening? I have a stat for you.
I don't know why you just yelled it like he was going to respond. Yes, I'm listening.
Parker, are you listening? I took another sack.
What is going on, man?
Well, I did this to help make my point. That was an on-purpose sack.
Oh.
Remember how many times Jalen Milroe took 2 sacks in a row this year? Here's a stat for you, Parker, because we're offensive line enthusiasts, Tim and I, not you. We played offensive line.
I have cared more about line.
No. I played
Not-
offensive line.
Oh,
I played offensive line. I want a good tight end. So okay. Oh, Buckner's in. I think I got Milrow hurt.
That's so sick, dude. I love that so much.
Sub in Ty Simpson if you want. Parker. I've taken a long time to tell this stat now.
Your ADD's off the charts.
It is. Actually, you're actually not wrong about that. It's been like that since I woke up.
It'd be like that.
It did be like that, man.
I don't think it'd be
Okay, I'm going to tell the stat. Washington gave up 12 sacks this year. Bama gave up 43. That's all you need to know. And their offensive line coach is supposed to be joining us in Tuscaloosa, along with the OC. That's exciting. That's some of the good stuff. That's some of the the copium I'm having to drink.
What? No,
No,
I have not.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
we
Go
have
and then
9
start
minutes to
clanking
finish
around
this
and bang
game.
something around. Go for it.
Okay.
No, you're good. I'm serious. Go. No, I'm pausing the game until Jade's.
Patrick.
Chat, go tell Jade to eat lunch.
Well, we also have to finish this so we can watch the presser. I want to watch it with you.
I mean, yeah, let's watch it together. We can watch that while we Twitch stream.
I guess we could.
No one's going to tell us not to. What
I
time is the
suppose.
presser at, 2?
Yeah, it's a 2.
What time is it?
I want it on this TV though.
Okay, baby.
I'm just excited for it. Oh man. Some more stuff that I want to
Milrow's
talk
no longer
about.
hurt.
Milrow's coming back. He screamed at the fans yesterday as he was walking into the athletic.
He yelled to the fans. I don't think we should say he screamed at the fans.
I love using the word scream.
He screamed at them.
I use that.
I'm coming back!
If MC even talks to me somewhat not harshly, but
What does
with
MC
even
think?
a little tone, I go, "Why'd you scream at me?"
Why does Saban, or what does MC think about Saban leaving?
She was surprised, and she's had questions for me, but she doesn't she's never heard of Kalen DeBoer.
Is she okay?
Yes and no. She goes through it sometimes. Nice tutter.
Thanks.
She goes through it on and off.
Saban had more first-round draft picks in his tenure than losses. Yes.
He did.
Good stat.
Bill Belichick drafted more NFL head coaches than 1,000-yard receivers. That's just a fun stat I've been seeing, but it's kind of hard to believe.
Yeah, that
but it's
really
true.
Is Forrest even? I don't think Forrest was able to join us today.
He might be busy.
Poor guy. He's gonna be really upset he missed this one.
Oh, it'll be on YouTube, unlike the last two. Unfortunately, I have not been very good at that because I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting that Twitch has made it so that they only stay up half the time that they used to.
Yeah.
And so by the time I'm like, oh crap, I need to download that and get it up, it's already been
I mean,
deleted forever.
We have it downloaded.
I have one of them downloaded.
I have the other one.
You did? Oh, good.
I have to download it to.
Okay, so you okay. One of them I didn't.
Are you able to edit this pod?
Yeah.
Okay. Because and the music for it's just now you guys are getting some post-production stuff. Twitch, you're welcome.
Hit that edge.
The music is in the Google Drive.
I just tried to fart, but I don't think it made a sound.
Let's end this stream
Uh,
so we can watch Presser. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna do. Oh yeah, I guess we can always just super sim to the end and stop the stream. We don't
Yeah.
have to finish
Yeah.
the game. We're winning
I mean,
34-7.
it's Auburn.
I know. Well,
We
let's-
should have beaten Auburn. Oh, you got them. We should have beat Auburn worse than this, but nope, there it is.
You want to super sim it?
Yeah, Super Sim. And then chat, anything else you want to talk about? Thank you, Paxton and Parker. And I assume that was Brian Bullbruce
That was, yeah.
for watching. We appreciate it. Leslie Martin for tuning in. Andrew Green for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll talk to y'all again soon. Roll Tide. Farewell.
Oh yeah, I guess I have to be the
You
one that
gotta
just
stop
stopped
it, yeah.
streaming. We won. I was just letting people see the final score. Okay. Yeah, we'll stop it in the middle of this. Bye, guys.